it is my pleasure to introduce to you Shruti, who is the executive coach for Goal ISB. Today, we have two ways for the audience to interact. On the right side of your screen, you can see a chat tab where you can talk among yourselves. And right below that, there's a Q&A tab. Please write any of your questions in the Q&A tab. Shruti will be answering as many as possible. So upvote the ones that you want to be answered and write down any question that you have. Shruti, over to you.
Thank you, Shreyasi. And good evening, everyone. It's nice to have you here, especially on a Saturday evening, especially for the ones who are joining us from India. This is just the time that you get out of office. But nice to have you here. This is an essay workshop, so please feel free to come up with your questions. We'll be happy to, take up as many questions as possible, and we'll keep it very, very interactive. So let's get started. I am pretty sure that you guys have already looked into what the ISB essays are like. So I'm not going a lot of deep into what the topics are exactly, but I'm just going to the context of the topics. So if we look at the ISB essays this time, there are three essays that you need to write. The third one is optional, but the first two essays are mandatory. So what is the first essay like? The first ISB essay, asks you about your personal journey. So the topic has a lot of layers within it. If you look at the essay topic, it talks about your personal journey, then asks you to reflect on some situations that have really shaped your personal growth. Beyond that, discuss the lessons that you have learned or the strengths that you have realized from those particular situations and the weaknesses that have also emerged from those situations going forward, also connected to your personal and professional development. So this is what the ISB essay 1 is. It is a personal essay. You can actually have a lot of ways of handling this, so there is no one formula for this essay. You can have situations which are personal as well as professional at some point in time. The professional and the personal, all of those merge into a certain single line also for a lot of professionals. So feel free to choose your stories accordingly. Now, coming to the second essay for the ISB application this year, the second essay that you need to write is actually, a YMBA essay. But if you go just deeper into the essay topic, it goes beyond, just YMBA. It goes into the intellectual experiences or the experiences, professional or personal, which have really brought you to the point of applying to an MBA now. So three, four things that you need to take care of in this essay. The first is be very specific on the anecdotes that you're picking. Try and be specific, take up specific examples from your stories, which will really help you relate to why you need an MBA. Then go into deeper into these particular situations to pick out how they have shaped your learning style. So there is another angle to this essay, which is your approach to learning. So focus on that, as well as then how these situations really motivated you to pursue an MBA. The third essay, which is the optional essay. So this is a 250 words essay. You don't have a lot of space to, go on and on about how ISB PGP is the best program for you and how ISB PGP will really help you. You need to be very, very crystal clear of your goals and then connect it to what particular aspects of ISB or the ISB PGP program are you planning to leverage so that you can achieve your career goals. So what does ISB mean to you is this particular question. You can also choose to identify how you will contribute to ISB within this answer. Now, having said that, the whole challenge in this is picking the right stories, then picking up the aspects of the stories that the essays look for, and then putting it into the word limit. So 400 words for the mandatory essays and 250 words for this seems very short when you're actually going into the whole life and picking your personal stories and professional stories. And so make sure that you really spend a lot of time on introspecting, reflecting, and then coming to writing the writing part. Before that, there's a lot of research and introspection that needs to happen. So this is about what the ISB essays are like this time. Pretty detailed, intertwined, but then very very interesting. Actually, it gives you a lot of scope for storytelling. So, Shirasi, do you have any questions? Do you think there are any questions that I can address?
Hi, Shruti. So far, the audience seems to be interacting with you, and there's one question that we have that asks, "What's the best way to nail professional goals essay for those who are looking to pivot in their career?"
Mm, See, when you are looking at pivoting in your career, there is a transition that you're looking at for sure. So, what is that transition and how have you prepared for it? So, this is the question that you need to answer for yourself and then make sure that it is addressed within the essay as well. If you're able to do that in a very crystal clear manner, in a step by step manner, I think that should be enough for you to put that up. However, having said that, everything doesn't need to be clear to you at the time of writing the essay. Just that you have a very clear goal in mind and that you are preparing towards it is enough for an essay. Totally depends on how you are planning the rest of the narrative as well. There are many ways to pick up this particular transition and put it forward in different stories as well. So, work and introspect and maybe create different versions and see what fits best. So, coming back to the essay tips. Sorry, Shirsi, do you have anything to add?
No, thank you, Shruti. I just wanted to mention that that's all the questions we have for now, and then we will come back for more questions.
Okay. So we'll come to the sample essays as well, and the feedback on those essays, how those are good, and what are the things that could be improved. Before that, I'll take you through some tips on writing the three essays that ISB has for you. What is it that you should exactly keep in mind when you're writing the first essay. So when you're writing the first essay, choose feel free to choose diverse situations and get into some storytelling as well. Try and connect with the reader when you are telling your story. So the challenge over here is the word limit, no doubt, but at least the story comes to the fore, and that is something that is going to be very impactful when you are actually competing amongst equals. So use specific examples, try and get into some storytelling. You can also choose diverse situations, pick up situations from personal as well as professional if you feel that that fits the essay question, and try and demonstrate how you have grown. So if there is a question which asks you about weaknesses, there is an underlying assumption that you have worked on those weaknesses. So try and demonstrate your growth throughout this particular essay. Coming to the second essay again, as I told you, is the why MBA essay, but it has different layers to it. You need to come up with situations which have really, brought you to the point of pursuing an MBA. Second, you should also be able to talk about your learning approach and how these situations have impacted your learning approach. So make sure that the situations that you are choosing relate to your career aspirations as well as your MBA aspirations, and then they handle, and then you are able to pinpoint exactly how the MBA will help you, or what exactly is it that you're looking at from the MBA program. Focus on the impact also. When there is a learning approach to it, then you should also look at how impactful your stories are, not just from the point of view of the resume point of view, but also from the point of view of what lessons you have learned from it. So this is for the essay 2. And when you come to the essay 3, one part of the question has already been asked, that is about when you are pivoting your career, what do you actually want to show in your essay, or the essay 3 specifically. When you're pivoting your career or looking at a career transition, you can also go into details of how you are preparing for that career ahead, and how does ISB fit into that particular scheme of things for you. Research ISB's PGP program thoroughly. Look into what the program is about, what are the offerings that the program has, what all will you go through in the whole 1 year, which will really impact your experience, the MBA experience, and how do you become a different professional. Everybody says that ISB is a very transformative program. Myself, I'm an ISB alumnus. I can vouch for it, no doubt about it. But you, as a professional who is applying to ISB, should be able to relate to some particular very specific things which you think that if I go to ISB, this is something that really going to get into. So be specific about your post MBA goals, show how you will contribute to ISB, and link your experience to your aspirations as well. There has to be some connect, whether it is a short term goal or a long term goal, as to how your experiences have prepared you for achieving your career goals. So, this is the long and short of the essays, not getting very much into this part now. Let me come to the specific essays that we have for the samples.
Shruti, before you get into the specifics, there is one question that has been getting a lot of upvotes. Um, it's the person is sharing that they are currently preparing for the GMAT, and they are going to use the remaining time that they have after taking the GMAT to write down essays. So they're asking, is there a difference between applying in round one and round two?
Yes and no. The difference is that when you apply to round one, you actually are, you have access to the whole number of seats. However, you just need one. So how much of that is actually applicable finally at the end of the day is something that still needs to be debated. Having said that, if you have a stronger application in round two, please go for round two. Don't rush into round one. If you have not yet written the GMAT and you are trying to rush into round one, you don't know what GMAT score you'll get. Don't think that only the essays will sail you through. It is the whole package that they are going to look at. There are three things that ISB takes from you. One is your GMAT, your academics and your work ex you already have. So that is, the static and the numbers, the facts that you are coming with, then your stories, and then the interview. So they will look at everything. It is not that the stories can only compensate for the GMAT. It is, one plus one goes together. So make sure that you have a strong application. Please apply to round two if you feel that you can do better in round two, at least from the application and your GMAT point of view. Nothing will go wrong. There are admits in round two as well. There is no rush. I hope that answers your question. Shosi, are there any other questions that I can take up?
Uh, the questions that are coming in are more specific. So I think once we get started with the essays, then we can go through those.
Okay. So this is the first essay that I have as a sample. I would give you around, because I'll need to shift the slide to the next one, and this is more readable. Please take a moment to read through it. I'll read it out as well. Life never is as straight as Sachin's drive. My journey has been a testament to that statement. One big moment hit me in on this date, and I was then there is an incident that the individual talks about, and a weakness popped up, panic. It at that moment I remembered the role model. So he comes to his role model where he has gotten an inspiration, and then comes the second incident. This is the incident where he probably lost his phone, and adaptability and thriving under pressure are strengths that he came to know about himself. Then another big moment. This is the third story of fatherhood, and then he takes lessons from the previous stories and puts them into action over here. In the next months, life was like a tornado, required me to divide my focus. I gave strong support, so he had to manage a lot of things. So multitasking and management as well as empathy, all of these things come up. The situations I've gone through have been tough but helpful. Uncovered weaknesses, but they taught me how to deal with them. Then strengths and key strengths forged by this remain the foundation of my career or life. I'm not able to read it from here. So let's go to the feedback. So this essay, if you go through it technically, it has a very clear structure. There is a logical flow. One story leads to the other, and there is a timestamp where we can actually relate to the whole flow of events. Then this story brings up very personal anecdotes, which is extremely commendable, which is a good sign. You have picked up the real stories, and then you have identified your strengths and weaknesses. You have given specific experiences and personal insights from those experiences. Now, what more can be done in this essay? How can we make it better? Let's get into some of those things. Let's look at the introduction and the conclusion. From where I look at it, the introduction is interesting. I start with life never is as straight as such and straight, but then it comes to a statement. So maybe you could integrate that statement into your opening and have a stronger introduction. Similarly, if you look at the conclusion, it is slightly abrupt. These key strengths forged by fire remain the foundation of my personal and professional life. So this is a nice statement to have, but if you could just integrate your whole story into a certain statement, that will be better than a generic statement. You can maintain a consistent tone throughout the essay. you know the variation of tone is very stark in each of these paragraphs. You can try and keep it more consistent, so that we have ample context, as well as the feelings part and the learnings part and the journey part, they are balanced. So you need to balance out your journey with the what the question asks. The question asks you for what were the strengths, what were the weaknesses, then how did it shape your personal journey. So the weakness comes up, then what? So there, that link is slightly missing. Consistency and style, I believe that this is a first version or a second draft. So if you will be working on this, you can work on the grammatical part of things, and then look at how these experiences have shaped your future goals and aspirations. There is no connect as such where it relates to the next essay. So there can be a certain conclusion where you can really bring up these particular strengths and weaknesses and take them to your future goals and aspirations. You can link them over here as well. So try and rephrase your conclusion, your introduction, as well as in the middle of things, try and make it more consistent. The narrative needs to be more consistent and answer the question consistently. So this is about the first essay that we had. Now coming to the next essay. In case there are any questions, Shosi, please feel free to interrupt me.
Yes, Shruti, the audience has been finding your input very valuable. Uh, Seems like it from the chat. And then the questions that we have right now is how should we tackle any career gaps in our essays?
Okay, so career gaps. So go ahead, please. Complete your question, please.
No, yes, that's the question.
Okay. So for career gaps, you need to have a plan. There are so many things that go behind a career gap. What was it for? What was it like? What was the duration? you know were there any other decisions that you took across it and around it? So what led to that career gap, and what did you do during that career gap? Now, based on all of these things, answering all of these questions will help me decide whether I want to put it in an essay, whether I want to explain it in a certain part or a certain story. Does it become a part of my story in the first essay itself? It can very well fit there. It is a good story to have if it relates to what the question asks you for. If it has led to personal growth and professional growth, then definitely you can add it in your essay as well. Or you can just have it as an explanation in the application form, where there is a very specific area they ask you for explanations on the career gaps. So the discretion is yours, because you are the best judge of your stories. You have to choose what will be the strongest narrative that you want to present to the admissions committee. So take a call based on all of these questions around it.
Thank you, Shruti. And one more question for now. Someone is asking, is it okay to overlap an anecdote for essay 1 and essay 2? How can I elevate my essay?
Yes, so there it is perfectly okay to have an overlap of stories. That's perfectly fine. You just need to see that finally it presents the best picture that you want to do. So whatever you want to talk about in terms of your profile, or in terms of your strengths and weaknesses, if it comes in the second essay also, that means it has contributed to your decision to taking up an MBA. And if it is like that huge and that impactful an incident, then why not? So choosing the stories is, and setting your narrative and putting your application strategy in place is the most critical part of things. You can actually, we have, when I'm doing working with my applicants, we have drafts where we have different stories coming together as well. And then we see that, okay, now is this a better story? The whole conjunction of these stories, is this a better representation on another one? So you can experiment as much. This is going to be your representation to the school. based on which they will choose you to come for an interview. And then this is what the interviews will also be looking for when you're talking to you. So make sure that you are choosing them well, but there's no problem in choosing the same stories for SA1 and SA2. If there's an overlap, it's okay. Okay, so I'll start with the second essay then. This second essay also comes for the first question that we have seen about the personal stories. So, hailing from Patna, Bihar, I've embarked on a journey that has taken me across more than 20 Indian states and 7 countries. It's one of my greatest strengths is my ability to seamlessly adapt to diverse cultural settings. However, this trait did not come naturally. So, this is a good introduction to start with. It can definitely be stronger, but let's see what's next. Then my early education in the state board curriculum was marked. So this comes up with the challenges that he has faced. This paragraph has that the transition was overwhelming. Weaknesses have cropped up, and he has struggled to utter a word. So he has worked on those weaknesses. Then coming to the next part is recognizing and addressing weaknesses. I've observed a persistent weakness within myself, an inability to say no even when overwhelmed with commitments. So from there, from the previous story, now it comes to a professional weakness where you don't say no, you have poor time management, and you are neglecting things on the personal end, and anyone can assume that the same comes to your professional end as well. And then you give very clear steps, the Pomodoro technique, and how you have worked on your weaknesses. So this is what this essay is about. I hope everybody else has also read it. Now let's look at the strengths and weaknesses in this particular essay. This essay gives a personal journey. The narrative is very personal and very, very relatable. So that is something very good in this essay. And then you have overcome language barriers. You have also mentioned how you have done that. Time management was a problem. You bring up a very specific Pomodoro technique. That is also good. So these are things that I see as a strength in the essays. Things that we can, look at to enhance it more could be to develop a more engaging introduction and a stronger conclusion. Your introduction and conclusion is like the window into your essay. So, and the conclusion is what I take away from the essay. So, if your conclusion doesn't have that for me to take away, then if it is a generic statement, then you are losing that opportunity to connect with your audience. Another thing is that you could also maintain a more consistent tone throughout the essay, keep the reader engaged. Sometimes we get too carried away with our narrative, with our story, that we forget about the reader. So keep the reader in mind when you are writing, and ensure that all the parts of this essay are tightly linked together in a central theme of growth. If you look at the essay, it touches upon the weaknesses a bit too much, and I do see growth, but then there are other things. What are the strengths that have come up? You have left it as a subtle takeaway for the reader. Whether he has the time to take that takeaway all the time, every reader will be able to do that or not. You're leaving it to their judgment. So try and see if you want to balance it out. So doing these things will definitely make these stories shine out. This is still a very good essay right now as well, but since we are reviewing, and there can always be a newer version of the essay. So again, when it comes to essay reviews and editing your essays and taking reviews from people, this is a good point that I wanted to a good time to bring up this point. Please don't edit and review your essays too much. There is a point in time where you lose sight of the story and you just keep on cutting across the story and putting more perspective into picture. So you need to be able to decide that, okay, this is the time when I stop editing my essays and getting more reviews. Who you are getting it reviewed from, and from what point of view, what background, that is one part of the whole review story. Second is, when do you stop editing? Don't ever over edit your essays, otherwise it will become half the essay, you'll carry it in your head and the paper will not have the complete story. So make sure you know when to stop as well.
Shruti, one question that has come up a lot: How How can we craft long term goals? What things should we mention while writing long term goals?
So when you're uh, looking at your long-term goals, it's actually totally open-ended. You know, the schools are okay with you having some vision in mind, but something being as specific as that I will be a CEO of this XYZ company or then this XYZ industry, nobody's expecting that from you. So when you are looking at your long-term goals, try and be true to yourself. If it is entrepreneurship, say that I want to open up something. I don't have clarity right now, but I will, keep on working on it, and another 10, 15 years you will see me opening up something. So if you have those aspirations, try and be true to them. But again, just be very realistic as well. So you should be ambitious when you are applying to an MBA program. That is definitely a requirement of an MBA, the long term goals, that they should at least befit that MBA program. Finally, it is up to you to decide what your long term goals will be. You can totally be finally, you are investing in an MBA program. You're going to spend like anywhere from 30 to 50 lakhs in India and much more for an international program. So you should be able to justify that to yourself before you do it to anybody else.
Thank you, Shruti. And one more question that I can answer. Um, when will we be able to access these recordings? You'll be able to access all the recordings immediately after this event, and then you'll have access to them until August 15th. All right, I think we can table the questions for now.
Okay, we'll come to the next essay then. This also looks like the first essay. And da, 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 da. Okay, so I hope you're able to read this. During my tenure at Mahindra, I encountered a significant challenge when our team discovered a critical vibration issue. The issue jeopardized the project's launch timelines. I was assigned to lead the implementation of this solution. You proposed replacing this particular thing, and then you also took up the implementation. The primary challenge was then you come up with challenges and how you have overcome them. A critical aspect of this process was ensuring that then